Hello, and thank you for listening to the Testing the Spirits podcast. In this episode, we're going to talk about churches that hide their beliefs. Yep, churches are hiding what they believe. Why is that? Well, let's go back, and I know I feel like a broken record sometimes, but starting in the 1960s, 1970s, that's when things changed here in the United States, and it became very popular for churches to drop the denominational label. So instead of being called, Greenfield or North, I don't want to use any specific church's name, but, Plainfield Baptist Church, instead of being called that, now you're being called Plainfield Community Church. Instead of being called Plainfield Congregational, now you're called just Plainfield Church. You drop the name, Baptist, Congregational, whatever it is, Pentecostal, whatever it was, the denomination you were part of, you're shedding your label. And here's the thing, if you actually left your denomination, it makes all the sense in the world to drop the label. But a lot of churches, they stayed in their denomination, but they took the denominational name off of the sign or just legally dropped it from their name altogether. Now, for our church, we started off in 1896 as a Congregationalist church. So we were a church in the Reformed tradition of Congregationalism, but the denomination went bad in the middle of the 20th century, and we left the Congregational denomination, so the name was dropped because that just made sense. You drop the name, and on top of that, we became more like a Baptist church. Okay, we stopped baptizing babies. And I say we, I wasn't even alive, so we're really a completely different church in many ways. But we didn't baptize babies anymore, so we're not congregational, we're not in that tradition. It made all the sense in the world to drop that denominational label, but there's a lot of churches today. For example, I could name you 3 or 4 churches, and they have that trendy name. Now, back in the 70s, it was popular to just be called whatever church or community church or Bible church or something like that. Today, the trendy thing is to just have one name, like Journey Church, Summit Church, Faith Church. Just one name, one word followed by church. But I could name you 3 or 4 different churches that have that type of short name, but they're actually part of the Southern Baptist Convention. But they don't even advertise as being Baptist, never mind Southern Baptist. Why? Because they're trying to hide their beliefs. Now, why on earth would you try to do that? Now, the real reason, I think, the best thing I can say is that people, churches, pastors, they're trying to appeal to as wide an audience as they possibly can. Okay, so they're trying to bring as many people through the front door as they can. So if you put the label Catholic on the sign, Protestants aren't going to come. If you put Protestant on the sign, Catholics aren't going to come. If you put Baptist on the sign, Presbyterians won't come. And if you put Presbyterian on the sign, Baptists won't come. You get the idea? So a lot of people are dropping the denominational labels because they want to just appeal to wide variety of people, as wide variety as they can. That's probably the most charitable way to look at this, and maybe the more skeptical way. The worst part about it is that, and this doesn't apply to everybody, but a lot of churches, it's not that they just are trying to hide what they believe. They actually don't know what they believe anymore, or they don't care. I heard one pastor, he said, I want this church to be a church where people don't know what they believe about anything, he said. And yeah, a pastor actually said that, a man who's been in the ministry for like 30, 40 years or something. And I know another pastor, whenever a topic comes up, eschatology, he prides himself on his denomination. He said, we don't take a position on that. Well, what about baptism? And we don't take a position on that. Well, what about, we don't take a position on that. Like, there is this new trend where churches not only are shedding denominational labels, they're not only, which is fine. That's fine if you're not part of that denomination. if you're part of the denomination, I think it's just honesty to tell people what you are instead of hiding it. But anyways, it goes beyond that. Now they don't even want to tell you the specifics of what they believe, and then some people don't even want to have beliefs. Like, we want to just drop all that, move away from all that. And we're not even going to take a position on baptism or eschatology or church government. And here's the thing about it. They say that, but they have to take a position. I mean, so a lot of pastors, most pastors would probably say, we don't want to argue about church government. We're not, back in the day, Presbyterian, Anglican, right? It's Anglican, Episcopalian, sorry. But some of these denominational labels are named after the form of church government, whether or not you're run by a bishop or elders. So sometimes you are named after your form of church government. That was a really big deal back in the day. Today, hardly anyone cares about that. Hardly anyone argues about that, it seems like. But you have a position, because whatever your church is, whatever your leadership structure is, you have a leadership. So whatever your position is what you are, what you have. Elders or a pastor and a deacon would be more the Baptist way. Elders, more the Presbyterian Reformed way. Methodists would have a bishop. Even something like Christian Missionary Alliance is sort of like the Methodists and the Episcopalians, because they have like a regional director who is like a bishop. But anyways, point is, every church has a particular form of church government. So you actually have a position, whatever it is that you are, but nobody wants to actually say, oh, yeah, this position's correct. And here's the bottom line. This is, I think, another reason, maybe what's behind all of it, that we are living in the postmodern age, right? You've heard this term, postmodernism, where the key tenet of postmodernism is that there is no such thing as absolute truth. Now, a Christian won't buy into that. At least a Christian would never say he thinks that, because the Bible is God's truth. This is the truth. We believe the Bible. Amen. That's what a Christian would tell you, and I think Christians believe that. But people have been so affected by this postmodern culture, they may not even realize it, but saying that, hey, we have this belief, we believe this, and we believe that our position is correct, people don't want to do that. Because if you say that your position is correct, if you say your doctrine is right, what does that obviously mean for the other people? That they must be wrong. And that's what people don't want to do. So even if you don't buy into postmodernism, you still are buying in to a degree if you say, well, I don't want to, take a stand or, fight about it, and nobody's really fighting, but just be willing to back up your position because you believe in it. That's what we're talking about. But people don't even want to do that because, well, I don't want to think that my way is right and everyone else is wrong. See, that's the way a lot of people are. I don't want to say that my view of eschatology, pre-trib and pre-mill, I don't want to take a strong stand because, after all, we don't even know. And this is sort of the way a lot of people are. It is seen as noble to not know. Ignorance is seen as a virtue. Well, I'm just not sure about that. Now, if you're not sure, you should say that you're not sure. But if somebody says, well, pre-mill, pre-trib, amill, post-trib, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know which is true. Well, if you're a pastor, how can you not know? Baptizing babies or believers' baptism, I don't know. I don't want to say I'm right and other people are wrong. I'm just not going to take a position. Well, yeah, you are going to take a position, because as soon as somebody comes to you and says, hey, will you baptize my baby? You got to take a position. So whether you say yes or no will determine, are you a Baptist or are you more like a Presbyterian or a Methodist or something? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, you do take a position, and your position is whatever it is that you're practicing or not practicing. So every church has a position on church government. Whether they say they do or not, it's whatever is there at your local church. Do you have elders? Okay, well, there you go. Do you have a pastor and deacons? That's your position. You can't avoid it. Will you baptize that baby? Yes or no? Okay, that'll determine, are you this or are you that? Eschatology, we don't take a position on that. Well, do you expect Jesus to come back? Do you expect to see the return of Jesus? I realize even someone who's pre-trib and believes in the imminent return of Christ, you realize that still you might not see him return in your lifetime, but do you expect to see it? See, everyone has a belief about that. Now you say, well, I'm really not sure. Okay, but pastors, people that are in leadership who preach every week, who study the Bible, you have a position. A pastor will have a position. And I guess there must be some things that people don't know about. I guess there are a few things that I don't know about, like the dichotomy, trichotomist viewpoint. I don't know. I mean, I guess I've leaned one way and leaned another way, but that really almost never comes up unless somebody wants to argue about that one point. Like, that never comes up, and it's not really a practical issue as far as I can tell. So there are some things that you can maybe not take a position on, but eschatology, that matters. I mean, that matters. How you approach life in general. Are you planning for the future? Do you think you're going to get raptured out of here tomorrow? Like, that actually makes a difference. So your view of the end times, whether you baptize infants, the form of church government you have, you see the point. Like, everybody has a position, but what's so common today is people are trying to hide what they believe. So again, going back to the beginning, a lot of churches have tried to shed that denominational label, and they don't want to call themselves Baptist, even though they're part of the Southern Baptist Convention. They don't want to let anyone know that. To me, it feels dishonest that you are Southern Baptist, but you're trying to hide it. Why? Okay. When people hide something, it's usually because they feel like they're doing something wrong. They're not proud of it. So why are they hiding it? And then there are churches that they are Pentecostal, they are Baptist. And let's face it, most of the large mega churches could fall into one of three categories. They're either Reformed, and I don't know if there's a lot of Reformed mega churches. Most of them are Pentecostal or charismatic, or they're more like a Baptist church. But you're probably, almost certainly, going to fall into one of those three categories. And yet you don't want to put it on the church sign. You don't want to tell people, why are you trying to cover it up? Okay. Again, trying to appeal to as many people as possible. Bring as many people through the front door as possible. And then some people go a step further and they don't have a statement of faith. They don't have a doctrinal statement on their website. They don't tell people what they believe. Why? Why is that? Some churches are adopting the Apostles' Creed as a doctrinal statement. Let me just say this, and depending on how you interpret one or two, three statements in the Apostles' Creed, I agree with the Apostles' Creed, depending on how you define Jesus descended into hell, right? There are a few points there that I think need clarification, but generally speaking, I would affirm the Apostles' Creed. Every Christian probably could affirm the Apostles' Creed if defined properly. But if you adopt the Apostles' Creed as your doctrinal statement, it literally tells you nothing about your church. There's no distinctives there. The Pope could say, and I think he does say that he believes the Apostles' Creed. So a Baptist church, Presbyterian, Pentecostal, they could all affirm the Apostles' Creed. It tells you nothing. It tells you nothing about what your church really believes, other than that you are just generically Christian, okay? Which we already knew that, because you're using the term church. Of course, then there's some places that don't even want to use the word church anymore. There's the Anglicans, right? The Church of England, they said that they weren't going to use the word church, at least for their new church plants. They don't want to use that word because they want to be whatever, hip or relevant or something. And it's like, wow. And listen, if a church uses the word assembly or congregation, that's what church means. So they don't call themselves church, they call themselves an assembly. It's the same thing. But there are some places you can drive by the building, and of course this doesn't matter as much, the architecture, but clearly there is the idea we all have in our mind of what a church looks like. But anything that was built in the last few decades, a lot of the new churches, they don't look like churches. You could drive by the building, you don't know what it is. It looks like corporate headquarters of some Fortune 500 company. It turns out it's a church. But even if the name of the church is on the side of the building, if it doesn't have church in the name, like New Spring or something, New Life, or there's like one name and they don't even have church as part of their name, yeah, you could literally drive by and you don't even know what this place is. You would never even know that it's a church. Why is that? Why is that? And you go to their website and you look on the website and there's no statement of faith, no doctrinal statement. Maybe we believe in Jesus and we believe in love and we believe in community and we believe in helping people. And okay, but what do you believe about baptism? Will you baptize my baby? Or will you baptize that other guy's baby because I'm a Baptist, and if you start baptizing babies, then I don't know how I feel about that. Or I do know how I feel about it, and I don't want to attend a church that does. See, I guess there's fewer and fewer people who have convictions, and this is really what I'm building up to, is the worst part about this is people just don't care about doctrine anymore. They really don't care about doctrine. Baptize the babies or don't. Jesus could come back today, or his coming is 1,000 years away at least. Hey, whatever, man. It's all good. We're all about love here, love and peace. The doctrine matters. Okay, doctrine matters. I used to have a shirt that said doctrine matters, and then I put it in the washing machine one too many times and it wore off. But the thing is, doctrine does actually matter. But we live in a day and age where people don't care about doctrine. And that's the worst part about it. If you don't have Congregational or Baptist or Pentecostal on your sign, I don't really care about that. If you don't have a denominational label as part of your name, our church doesn't. And we dropped it, but for good reason. But I don't care about that because I'm trying to be biblical in all things. And to be honest with you, let's look at the Bible. Hey, the church at Corinth, the church in Ephesus, they didn't have a denominational label. There were no denominations. So you can't say that a church has to have that. And I'm not saying that. I'm trying to be biblical. But what I will say is these churches, they taught doctrine. They knew what they believed. They weren't trying to hide what they believe. And that's where I fear many people are. They take pride in not taking a position. Oh, I don't have a position. I don't know what we believe. Or that one pastor I told you about. I want this to be a church where the people don't know what they believe about anything. It's like, wow. That's either where we're at or it's the direction we're going. People don't care about doctrine. Oh, well, we don't want to fight, and I don't want to say that I'm right and other people are wrong. I don't want to be arrogant and think that I'm right about everything. Well, you're not right, and I'm not right about everything. I fully expect that when I get to heaven, I'm going to find out that I was wrong about several different things. But I care. Here's the point. I care about God's truth. And when these issues come up, when these questions come up about doctrine, doctrine divides, love unifies. Oh, listen, what is doctrine? It's teaching. It's what you believe. It's about what the Bible says, and do I understand what the Bible teaches, and do I believe it, and do I want to teach others? But we live in a time where people are caring less and less and less about doctrine. Hey, just say you believe in Jesus and you believe in love and peace, and that's good enough. I don't want to go in that direction. I don't want to fight. I don't want to be at people's throat over doctrine, but good, healthy, robust debate. That's been the way Christians have been doing it for 2,000 years. And everything was going pretty well up until, the 20th century. It was in the middle of the 20th century when things started going downhill real fast. And I sound like a broken record, but you trace it back to the middle part of the 20th century. Before that, churches pretty much were full. They had the denominational label. Again, that's not that big of a deal, but here's the bigger point. Churches, the pastor at least, knew what he believed, and he knew what he was teaching the people. And the people, whether they agreed with it or not, they knew what their church stood for and what their church taught on this issue and that issue and baptism and eschatology. They knew what they were being taught because everybody understood the doctrine. They cared about the doctrine. But the middle of the 20th century, that all changed. The charismatic movement started and the Jesus revolution, and it's just about unity. So let's just drop denominational labels. Let's stop fighting about whether you're going to baptize the baby or not, and let's just all come together in love. But still, at the end of the day, when that family comes to you and says, will you baptize my baby? You still have to take a position. You can't get around it. But are you sending the message? And this is what I'll end with. As a pastor, are you sending the message that you don't care about doctrine? Or as a church member, are you getting the impression that your pastor doesn't care about doctrine because he never takes a stand for hardly anything anymore? That's kind of where we're at. And I want to bring it back in the other direction. Amen? And if you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments section. But thanks for listening. And until next time, may the Lord be with you and have a great day.